Welcome to Death and Aliens, an in-depth look at horror and sci-fi TV from two friends who vaguely know what they're doing. I'm Courtney.
And I'm MK.
And how are ya?
Well, I finished the book I was reading last Saturday.
Crescent City
No,
number
last
two?
Friday. Crescent City number one. I finished Crescent City one Friday on the plane.
Hmm.
Um, and then I proceeded to become violently unhinged and download 6 books onto my Kindle and begin actively reading all of them.
God, I've done that so many times in my life. It is the most unhinged reader's mistake, and I have done it at least once a year.
So
At
far,
least once a year.
so far, I don't think it's a mistake. I'm in.
It never feels like a mistake.
No,
It's true joy.
it's joy. I actually posted on one of my crazy Instagram things the other day was that my bookish flex is that I can read 6 books at the same time and never once confuse the plots. Um,
Hey.
I'm doing great. I did have one moment where I got really confused because one of the books takes place in Chicago, and then one of the other books I was reading, I was like, this does not feel like Chicago. And then I go, oh, right, no, because this one's not that. Got it. Um,
Chicago, yeah.
so my 6 books that I'm currently reading on my beautiful Jade Kindle.
Oh, I love it. You have stickers and stuff.
I do.
I'm so boring. I'm boring. I can't commit to a
Um,
sticker.
well, that's why I have it on a plastic case so I can
Yeah,
take
I
it
don't have a
off.
case.
And
So
I do, in fact, change my stickers monthly because I also have stickers on the back of my phone. My phone ones wear out faster, but I I have a bag full of about 500 stickers to go through. Currently on my Kindle, I have The Beast Within, which is part of the Disney Twisted Tales Villains
yes, I was
series.
like, I just read about this. It's good. It's on my TBR list too.
Yeah, I'm reading that. I don't love it. I don't hate
Oh,
it.
bummer.
So I read the first one, which is the fairest of them all. It's the Evil Queen from Snow White.
I haven't read any of that
I read
series.
that one in 2018. And I really, really liked it. And The Beast is the second one. And it's been on my Kindle since then. And then I didn't have a Kindle and then I had to get a new Kindle, whatever. When I downloaded I got my new Kindle, it was already there. And I was like, oh yeah, I forgot that I was reading that. But I don't love that The Beast is the villain.
I don't know anything
Like,
about it. I mean, I guess
um,
it's a twisted fairy tale, so that makes sense. But like,
right. Um, And so far, like I'm only like 3 chapters in, but like he's kind of an asshole, and I'm not really a fan. So we'll see where how it turns into. And it's also like weird, and there's like witches and shit that aren't like in the story for real. And so I don't know. So that one is still jury's out on my feelings on that
yeah,
one. Um,
TBD.
yeah, I have The Last Kingdom, book one.
Sure, sure.
No surprises there.
Yeah,
Um, I did not realize there was like 19 books in that series though, so that'll be fun.
there's a lot.
A
Yeah,
lot.
it's
It's
big.
it's big and I'm so excited. Um,
Ugh,
I have one called Last Train to Istanbul,
I've heard of it. I don't
which
know much about it.
it's a historical fiction book about Turkey's involvement in World War II, but it's actually originally
Oh,
written
interesting.
and like their decision not to, but like the main character works for the foreign ministry in Turkey. But his sister or his wife's sister married a Jewish man and they're living in France during Nazi occupation. And it's very interesting and it's like the conflict between the Muslims and the Jews and the Turkish government and the European governments during World War II. And the book was originally written in Turkish, and this is an English translation of it. So it's very interesting. I'm only about 15% of the way through that one, but I really like it. And then I have my 3 fantasies that I'm currently reading. I do have Crescent City number two, um, and I have the Zodiac Academy books,
Okay,
which,
people keep talking about this book. I
yes,
don't know anything about it though.
that's the one that starts in Chicago, and I was really confused.
Is
Um,
it good? Are you on the first one?
I'm on the first one. I'm 17% of the way through.
Oh,
So far it's okay. It's definitely more juvenilely written than the other ones that I've been reading. But it's good. I'm barely into understanding the characters. Fantasy books, I feel like you have to give them at least 50% before you can make a
oh,
decision
for
because
sure.
they're like and then the last one that I started is Fourth Wing.
Oh yeah, tell me how that is too, because I have that
Yeah.
one.
That one
I
I'm
haven't already started yet.
that one it's really hard reading it at the same time as the SJM books because Rebecca Yarros is a less descript like she writes her descriptions are beautiful, but she leaves things very vague. And I have yet to figure out if it's an intentional vagueness or if it's a she thinks she explained this better than she did.
Heard that they're just very different writers. Like there are
Yeah.
people that say you're either a Rebecca Yarros or an SJ say SJ fan. I was like, what is the order of her name?
Yeah, no, yeah, I do think
But I know people that like them both
I know
too.
people who like them both, but I feel like even my friends who like them both very strongly feel like one
Mhm.
writer is better than the other, and I think that I fall into the SJM camp in
Yeah.
terms of who's our better writer. But so far, I'm enjoying the story. I do have one big problem, and I'm only like 6 chapters in, so like I'm sure. And I did literally ask Chrissy and Kate today. I go, they are going to explain this, right? And they were like, yes. I go, okay, good, because I'm really not a fan of how they've described it so far. But like, because the main character has some kind of disability, but they like are super vague about it to the point where I'm like, am I
Mm.
imagining?
Yeah.
But I was promised that there is more explanation on that to come. So I was like, okay. So
Excellent. Excellent.
great. Yeah, so those are the 6 books I'm reading. All of them I'm less than 30% of the way in, but none of them am I less than 10% of the way in. So like clearly I've lost my mind.
Well, yeah, yeah, it's fine. It happens to
It's
the
fine.
best of
It's great.
us.
It's great. Yeah.
At some point, one or two will suck you in, and you'll come back to the others later, or you might not. That happens to me sometimes, and I'm like, oh, I forgot about that book's existence. Um, I am glad you chose to talk about books because I also plan to talk about books this episode.
Yay! Oh my
Um,
gosh. I just realized that I never on Sunday's episode of Stargate never talked about conspiracy theories. I didn't. It's okay. It's okay because I told you I have to call my mom and get more information.
rare. So bring
Yep.
it to the DNAs.
DNA Awards will start with a deep dive into conspiracy theories.
I'm so excited. Oh god, this is gonna be a 1,000 hour long episode. It's fine.
Right.
Yeah, so since I've been sick, what do you do when you're sick? You read books and sleep. That's it. That
Yeah,
is the
that's
extent.
it.
I put on Bob's Burgers in the background, and I read my books and sleep. So I finally finished Blood Over Brighthaven. 5 stars. 5 stars.
Okay.
It is, these are very different books, so it is hard for me to tell you which one is my favorite of the year so far. But it is a
Mm,
hard split between All Fours and Blood Over Brighthaven. But they are just very different books.
yeah,
And probably the same people aren't going to like them, like, if
right.
I had to guess. But Blood Over Brighthaven is fantasy, and I think you would really like it.
Okay.
It's
I'm
not a
trying to think.
romantasy.
I'm trying to think how many books have I finished this year so far? What is my
I finished
Goodreads?
18.
Oh Jesus, you're ahead of
Um,
me. I'm like, what does my Goodreads say? Oh no,
I
wait.
just looked at it last night.
Oh no, I'm at 19.
Oh, I'm coming for you. Don't worry, I'm probably gonna finish one today.
Oh no, 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 no. It's because I had a bunch of things stored on my Kindle that I removed and marked as read, but I didn't, but it's because they were just stored on my Kindle. I didn't finish them this year.
I gotcha.
How do I fix that off my
You can
reading
go into
challenge?
Goodreads and you can
Yeah.
see, you have to go into the actual listing of Goodreads of your book and it'll say edit dates and then you just edit the dates. So put them
Okay.
in a different year.
Oh, I could just remove it from the challenge. It will no
Oh,
longer
I
be.
didn't know you could do that.
Yeah, I
That's
can
much
just
easier.
it's remove it from my challenge. Like I didn't read it this year. That's
Nice.
okay because I didn't attach a date to it. I
Mhm.
just yeah. So because I was gonna say I no way am I on 19. That's a lie. It thinks that I read Harry Potter this year.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
I am on 18. I because I finished Blood Over Red Hitting yesterday. I've almost finished all of my May books. For
mm,
my book clubs, I have missed all of my book clubs, but I've read all the books almost. So Guide of the Woods I had started. I'm a little over halfway. I really like it, but it got taken back to the library. Now I'm back on the hold list.
mm,
So should I back in a few weeks and maybe I'll finish it. But I'm also using it for one of my Goodreads challenges, so I have to finish it before June 30th. So
Oh,
it's
well,
gonna
and
have to
also, I have
pop
to be
back soon.
careful on my Goodreads on my Kindle because like Crescent City um got added via my Goodreads shelf. and my Kindle library. And I was like, wait,
Mm.
no, I don't. So I'm only at 9 for the year, which is what I thought I was at.
Oh, okay.
I'm 12 books behind schedule, but it's okay because I'm actively reading 6 right now.
Right. It's like you don't know if you're behind or not because you read 8 books last month. And so they're like, just try to average 4 books a month.
Yeah.
And depending on the month, I read 4 or 12. You never know.
Yeah. I
So
have to
like
say, if I had to pick my favorite book that I read so far this year, it would be Kingdom of Ash, though. So,
I've heard good things about that one. But yeah, I've slipped through Blood Over Brighthaven and I think you'll really like it. Like I said, it's not a romantasy. There's a little bit of a like romance element, but I don't want to say more, and you'll
okay.
realize when you read it.
Okay.
It's long. It's like 440 pages, but I mean, all your books are long right now because you're reading SJM. But it is just captivating. I don't have it in me to read like real fantasy right now,
Right.
and I didn't want to put it down. So it's like it's not like romantasy. It's not even really magical realism. Like it's more fantasy than that.
Okay.
Um, I really liked it though. I also read God, what's the full name of it? I read Hill House. I can't remember what the full name of the book is, but
The Haunting on Hill House?
that's the one. Haunting of Hill House. I was like, there's a full title because I've just been calling it Hill House for
Yeah.
years. The Shirley Jackson one.
I just realized though that 5 of my 6 books on my shelf or that I'm actively reading right now are series. So like
Mhm.
doesn't matter which one I finish. The only way I don't keep going on the series is if I finish the Istanbul one first, and then I'll
Mm.
have the ability to choose. But otherwise, the next book is already decided for me.
Right. Yeah, that's where I'm trying really hard to stay away from series because I'm doing so many book clubs. Because I'm in 4 that I'm active in.
Hmm.
But like my book club for this month for so Fable, if you haven't downloaded the Fable app, I'm sure I've talked about it on here.
You
Um,
have. I
and
have not. I
so if
still
you
haven't downloaded it, but you have talked about it.
highly recommend. So I'm in a thriller book club on there that I just stumbled upon. And there's like 8 people and everyone's super active, so I really like them. But they're reading Hidden Pictures by Jason Reckowak. I don't know his last name, but I've already read the book, so I was like, don't have to read that this month.
Yeah.
And then we're reading a book, and then I'm in the First Degree book club, which I'm not super active in, but I am in it. I usually try to at least read the books. I have my regular book club that I've been in for
Yeah.
a couple of years now. Zach's book club, and I feel like there's one more that I'm active in, more active than the First Degree. Maybe I'm counting the First Degree one as my fourth one. Um, so Zach's book club, we're about to start the time ministry, but that was for Blood Over Brighthaven, so I read that. My thriller one was The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, and that's the only one I haven't read. I haven't read that one, and I haven't finished Out of the Woods, which was my like other book club one. But I have The Naturals, and I think I'll probably read it today or tomorrow. Because I already put in my next request at the library
Nice.
because we're reading The Golden Couple, Greer Hendricks and Sarah Pickerton.
Okay.
I don't know if you've read any of their
I
books.
have not.
I really like them. That's like the one I haven't read yet, and I
Okay.
started it a long time ago and then forgot. And so I'm pretty thrilled that it's the book we're reading because
Nice.
I did really want to read it. And then The Ministry of Time. Um, I don't know anything about, but people have talked about it for the past couple of years. I think it was like a 2024 or 2020. I don't know when it came out even, but it was like book of the year when it came out.
Okay.
Um, so that's the one for Zach. So I have those both on hold at the library right now. I should go get them, but I have to go take my other ones back. So I've been doing some reading. I really liked Hill House. I'm glad I finally read it. It's a quick read. It's like right under 200 pages or something.
Nice.
Um, but yeah, so I'm probably gonna try and do an essay and then read. Oh, and I'm reading. That's what I was gonna say. I know I've talked about Cameron Jace a gazillion times before. He did the
Hmm.
Twisted Alice Wonderland series. He has a new book in his like thriller persona, which is AG Twist, and it's called The Cage. I was supposed to read it as an ARC, and it came out this week, and I haven't read it yet, but I've started it. So, So I'm really excited about that too. So I'm gonna read that one in the naturals probably this weekend.
Nice.
Um, but now that we've had our book talk session,
Yeah.
can you bring us joy or despair or something?
Or
Some
something,
feeling,
yeah.
some emotion.
All right, here we go. After careful consideration and many sleepless nights, here's what I've decided. There's no such thing as a grown up. We move on, we move out, we move away from our family and form our own. But the basic insecurities, the basic fears, and all those old wounds just grow up with us. And just when we think that life and circumstance have forced us, truly, once and for all, to become an adult, your mother says something like that. Or worse, something like that. I don't know what the things that she's saying are. We get bigger, we get taller, we get older, but for the most part, we're still a bunch of kids running around the playground trying desperately to fit in.
Talk about generational trauma. I mean,
Yeah,
what a time to be alive. Oh my goodness. Yeah, Meredith is just depressing.
yeah.
That's okay. What we're talking about today is not depressing.
It,
Um,
it's it though? I don't remember.
it's not as depressing as last week's episode.
That's true. That's true.
So there's always that. Um, so this week we are talking about Clarice, season 1, episode 8, Adamine, which is an accurate name for this episode, but a dumb name for this episode.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter, but that is how I feel. Um, it aired May 8th of 2021. It was rated 7.1 out of 10, so we've gone down a little bit. We were 7.4 last week. Number one song is Save Your Tears by The Weeknd and Ariana Grande.
I literally was singing that as I was getting dressed this morning for no reason. No reason whatsoever. I must have. I literally was singing that while I was getting dressed this morning. No, maybe last night. Maybe last night while I was getting ready for bed. But I swear to God, within the last 24 hours, I was singing that song with no prompting.
I don't know that I've listened to it since 2021.
I don't know that I have either.
But I was just listening to the podcast Keep It Weird. I know I've talked about before.
Yeah.
They both used to work in LA on TV shows, and they both worked for Victorious. And so they were talking about how, like, knowing Baby Ari, and they were like, we didn't know who she was at the time because she wasn't anyone at the time.
Yeah.
And it was funny.
So
that was her, like, recently.
You said May what?
8th.
No, May 8th. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta check.
The number one movie is Wrath of Man. And the number one book is Ocean Prey by John Sanford. I don't know either of those things. So that is what it is. On this day, Elon Musk hosted SNL, which I do actually remember because I remember how big of a deal that was at the time. But that is.
Yeah, no. Did you hear today's news? This is an old news by the time this podcast comes out, but today he officially resigned. He will from working in Trump's White House. He said, I'm outie.
What a wild time to be alive. I did not see that.
Yeah. Elon Musk quit the White House.
Oh, he's just too much.
Also, that face was because I was looking at my phone trying to figure out what I was doing at that time. Nothing. I had moved home from Thailand the week before and literally posted nothing on Facebook for the entire week, the first week I was home. Yeah.
Well, speaking of the White House, Bo, who was the first dog of the White House, passed away on this day. And last but certainly not least, Spencer Silver passed away at 80. Do you know who he is?
No, I do not.
He is the inventor of the Post-it note.
Oh.
And I will never, for all of my years, I will only think of Romeo and Michelle's high school reunion.
Oh.
My father invented the Post-it note. No, he didn't. He did it.
It's okay.
It is my favorite thing.
I guess that means that makes sense. I've never seen Romeo and Michelle's High School Reunion all the way
I
through.
know, no one has. It's
I've
okay.
I've seen like bits and pieces of it. I think I've watched like the same three scenes of it every time it's on TV and never watched the whole movie all the way through.
There's a rumor it's going to Broadway, and I'm gonna lose my mind if it does because it's one of my top five movies. Like,
But I guess that makes that scene is what Gretchen Wieners and her dad, the inventor of toaster strudel, is an like reference to.
yeah, I'm sure it is. I mean, I haven't seen that connection, but I'm sure it is. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
because literally when you were like, my dad invented the post-it note, I was like, her dad invented the toaster strudel.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's oh god, it's hilarious. Everyone should watch that movie. Not when you're 8 like I did, but like a reasonable age, you should watch it.
Also, if
Um,
you're 8, don't listen to this podcast.
right, yeah, that too, that too. Don't listen to this podcast either, but also don't watch Romeo and Michelle's High School Reunion. It's fine.
And definitely don't watch Coyote Ugly. That's a whole other
Ooh,
story.
I also watched that at 8. Did you watch that at 8?
Not by choice, which is
I only
why
know that I watched it at 8 because we watched it at my friend's 8th birthday party, and her birthday was 2 days before mine or after mine.
no, I was made to watch it by someone. It's a long story.
Hey, okay, maybe you can tell me another day.
Yeah.
Um, well, our director was Deborah Campmere. I don't know why I just write in swirls. I don't know why I don't use real letters. Um, She's known for The Gilded Age, Outer Range, Star Trek Picard, and Hound Dog.
Okay.
She also recently has worked on the show Brilliant Minds, which I know we've talked about on this show a
Yeah.
lot. She was director of that show for some episodes. She taught at NYU, Stella Adler, and the National Shakespeare Conservatory.
Nice.
And in 1983, she went to her senior prom with RuPaul.
With who?
RuPaul.
Oh, I've seen those pictures.
Oh, well, that's her. That's her.
Love that.
Um,
RuPaul Charles. What
that's
man?
the one. That's the one. Our writers are Jen Lamette, Alex Kurtzman, Boo Killebrew, and Tess Leibowitz. So the one we haven't talked about is Boo. And she is known for Miss America, Lessons in Chemistry, Physical, and Longmire. So she's got some crossover between working on Apple TV and Paramount Plus.
Is Lessons for
Um,
Chemistry a show now?
mhm. It came out in 23, I think.
Oh.
But
Is
it's on
that
Apple TV, so no one's ever seen it.
Oh, I was like, does that coincide with when the book got really popular again?
Yes.
Got it.
Yes.
Cool, cool, cool.
Mhm. She is also a playwright, and she's from Mississippi, which is fun. So there's not a ton of information about her because she just has like posts of her partner and dog and everything.
Love it.
But basically, she started as an actress and whatnot, and kind of like went into uh, being a writer and playwright. And so this is what she does now.
I love it.
Our editor is Scott Gampton, who we have talked about before. And I have to switch pages there. Our next in line is David Hewlett, who plays Anthony Herman. We are not talking about him, as I realized about 5 minutes into doing research on him, because he is Dr. Rodney McKay from Stargate. So you've heard us talk about him.
Yeah.
We've heard Mary Kay talk about him.
Listen,
So
and I know I've met a lot of great people at Comic Cons. I know that I've met a lot of people that are more attractive than him at Comic Cons. If I ever met him, that's all I'd ever need. That's all I would ever need in my entire life.
that was
I love him.
very wild. That's very wild. I am interested to see more of him in Atlantis because that seems to be his main place to be is Atlantis.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see more of him.
So soon.
I know we're almost there. So instead we're talking about Grace Lynn Cohn, who plays no, she plays Grace Lynn Cohn, who is the therapist, is played by Renee Lee. Now here's the thing about the name Renee Lee. There's a gazillion of them.
Oh yeah.
Multiple that are actresses, multiple that are models. I cannot find this woman outside of IMDb. She is known for Starfield, like the video game that got popular last year or year before.
Okay.
Miss Sloan, Fahrenheit 451, and NCIS. She lived in the world's oldest council estate in London, and she's from Ontario. There is an Australian Renee Lee, there is an English Renee Lee, there is a Renee Lee from Hong Kong. None of these are her.
Yeah.
So I do not have any more information about her because I cannot find her anywhere outside of IMDb.
Fair enough.
But that is who she is. So we start with flesh being placed on a fish hook and potentially burned. And I was like, what a way to start. However, it turns out it is not human flesh.
Yeah.
They are roasting ducks,
Yeah.
which I was like, oh, we're starting off strong. And then I was like, oh, we just are pretending like we're starting off strong.
Cool.
Everything's fine. Everything's fine. So Clarice is at her new therapist, and she's saying that she trusts her because she's helped her remember the past. And she was like, I didn't like my other therapist. He was gaslighting me, but you've already helped me remember things. So like,
Yeah.
she talks about not being concerned at all about being hunted because she's like, I know I have trauma, but I'm not concerned these people are coming after me. And the therapist is like, that's one of the reasons I'm concerned about you. And she's
Right.
like, look, there's no reason for the two. Also, I'm like, they're dead. Why are they coming after her? Like, who are you concerned about? Because we're talking about people that have already been captured for the most part. Like, it's possible the river murder people are going to come after her, the conspiracy people are coming after her.
Yeah.
But that's not what we're talking about right now. So,
Right.
like, I don't know why you're concerned for her not being concerned. Um, So the therapist starts talking to her again. She's like telling her, she's like, we can work through this. Like, I'll help you with your trauma. She's like, however, I can promise to help you process your trauma. I cannot promise to help you keep your job. Because she's like, I don't know that this is good for you, but it
Yeah.
is where we're at, which is fair.
Right.
And
Because it's
even
not.
right, and even Clarice, she's like, I get it. She's like, I want to do the work, I want to do this, and if we decide that this is not where I should be, then this is not where I should be, and I'll accept
Which is
that.
a load of crap. She doesn't
For
believe it as it
sure.
comes out of her mouth.
No, but she sure does put on a good face like she does. Oh, I am almost out of pages in my notebook. Give me your notebook soon, I didn't realize. Sorry, I got real distracted there. Um, and then we go to 24 hours earlier. And Map has like all of the press. Like she has gone and
Yeah.
taken all of these little press booklets because she's on the front of it. And Theresa's like, did you leave any for the precinct? And she's like, these are all for my grandmother. She was like, I couldn't tell her no.
Yeah.
And that's very cute.
Yeah.
And then we learned that Clarice and Escobar are still also actively looking into Joe.
Mm-hmm. As
And
they
so they
should.
go to as they should. So they go to the DOJ and they're meeting with the ADA who had turned them out in it originally, or turned
Yes.
Callan as well out originally, or Callan Clark. I think it's
Whoever.
Callan Clark. But she was like, until you have more, we can't talk. So she's like, don't come back. So they
Yeah.
come back with more. And they're like, we found out who this guy is. We know he's involved. Like, his name is Joe. He's an attorney. This is our information. And she does get a little more interested in that. She's like, okay, wait, tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah.
However, she feels like she still can't take it on. She's like, you're gonna have to go like take it up with the AG.
Yeah.
But she does, but they also bring up that they're not the first people to say something about Joe. There's a Yugoslavian woman named Carolina who had also called about Joe. However, she is now dead from her parents' suicide.
Cute.
So
Gotta love
that's where
it.
yes, and that's where we get the credits. So much quicker opening this week,
Yes.
but still fine. Um, so we go to Paul, and he is just ignoring all of his phone calls. Like his assistant brings in and says Joe is calling, and he's like added to the stack, and he has just like stack of like missed call
Yeah, I
calls
don't
on
know
his
what
desk.
he is doing right now.
But it's not talking to people. That is what he's doing.
Right.
Um, but the message that Joe leaves is that he found more on Mandy. And so we also learned that Clark has scheduled a meeting to meet with Paul because he's
Because
avoiding
he's
everyone.
that he's ignoring people to
Yeah.
that point that his own team is like, let me get on your calendar.
Yeah. He's like, I have to talk to you. We have to talk, so I will schedule it if I have to. Um, and then he starts talking, and then we flash over to Clark then. And Clark is so paranoid that everyone's stealing his pins. He's like, they're all stealing my pins. And everybody's like, no one wants your pins. Like, I don't know what you're saying. Um, and at this moment in his little event, we see Crimler trying to run away. He's just
Yeah.
like booking it out the door. And Clark's not having it. So he da, 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 da. So Clark chases him down and he's like, we have to talk. He's like,
Yeah.
stop running away. And he's like, why are you trying to back off this guy? Like, we know there's more to it. And he's like, it's just FBI bureau stuff. Like, we have to follow what they say. Like, it is what it is. We can't do anything more. And he's like, you've never been that guy. And
Never.
I was
Yeah.
like, I've never been the boss. Like, we've never been in this type of dynamic before, hierarchy. Um, and then he leaves, which is fair. However,
But but
still isn't great.
but he's right to be like, this is wrong. My friend would not talk to me like this. I don't like it.
Right. So then we go to Matt and her boss, Herman, and we learned that she's applied to the DNA task force. She's making her move. She like applied to the DNA task force. She's really been putting the work in. She's got all the stuff behind her, and she's like, I'm ready to move to the next level. And he's like, you are the best. You're doing all these great things. However, you don't need these flashy articles. You don't need this kind of recognition.
He's basically like, if you want to get ahead, stay in line and shut your mouth and you'll get ahead when I say you'll get ahead. And
Right.
no siree, Bob.
Right. That is not fun. So then we go to Clarice and Escobar, and they're at the morgue looking at Carolina's body. And Escobar says that there's like some marks that are suspicious, or he says that it looks suspicious, and Clarice says that they need to like she's like, can we get an autopsy done? Like, is there any way to like report this as suspicious and do it quietly? And Escobar's like, as a matter of fact, I know just the person.
Hmm.
Um, However, before we learn more about that, Clarice finds a gum wrapper with a message on. However, it's in Hebrew, and no
Interesting.
one can figure it.
And this is before the idea of Google Lens, where you just take a picture and it translates it for you. So, like, they couldn't do it. But also, I was so upset when I saw this because I cannot read Hebrew. On all of my dual languages, lingo languages, on everything that I'm doing, I can figure out, like, when I look at the Arabic, I'm not great, but like I recognize what letter it's trying to be, what sound it's trying to make. I can read the Korean. I can read Japanese and Chinese. I can't fucking read Hebrew. I don't know why. I cannot, my brain does not process it as letters. It is the language that I have the most difficult time with on Duolingo. So when they unwrapped the wrapper and I saw it, I go, nope.
You're like, that's not for me.
I
That's not
go,
the one
and
we're
we're
gonna go
done.
with. Yeah, bless
And
it.
we're done here. Thank you.
That's so funny.
I don't
I've
know
never,
why I can't read Hebrew. I don't know why everything else clicks and the Hebrew, I just stare at it.
I don't know. I've never tried to read Hebrew. Um, Looks hard.
Yeah.
So not for me. But yeah, that's basically the same thing they said. They were like, we don't know how to read this either. Um, so
It is surprising that no one well, I guess not no one in their they're not saying no one in the FBI. It's just no one in their department. Because I would say, could you imagine if no one in the entire FBI could read Hebrew?
I know. Well, they said to call Cal, like they said to call Shapati.
Yeah,
So he may be able to read it, but we just
yeah,
haven't brought it to him yet.
yeah,
Um, so we go to Joe and Paul, and he's telling Joe not to call his FBI. He's like, you can't do this. Like, you're making too much of a splash. And Joe's like, standing over me also makes a scene. Like, if you just sit down like an old person, no one's going to see anything.
yeah,
Um, and so Joe starts bringing up the mournful Mandy, and he's like, "Did you know about her DUI?" And he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Did you know the kids were in the car?" And he's like, "Yeah, obviously he did."
yeah,
Um, and he's like, "Interesting." And he says, "If you don't know, then you're worse off than you think you are, and if you do know, you're worse off than I think you are."
yeah.
And then he is just like, "Whatever," and like kind of blows it off. However, when Joe leaves, he takes his pen to run DNA. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh, he's not a terrible person.
Yes, I was so happy. I was like, oh, thank God he finally figured out
Mhm.
that he is making the wrong choices here.
Yeah. I mean, I think he always knew, but he didn't know how to get out of it. I think he was like, I have to agree right now, and
I
I'm
think
gonna have to
yeah,
figure
well,
out how to get out later.
I think it wasn't until the actual blackmail phone call though, last week. Like in
Oh
last
yeah, yeah.
like when she first said this is the bad guy, his immediate reaction was like, no, he's not.
Yeah, definitely. But since the black knuckle, I think he agreed because he knew he had to.
Yeah.
And then he was like, I'll figure it out though on my own because I'm not pulling anyone else into this. Um, so go back to Vicap. Clarice, Nesco, and Clark are talking about Carolina. And Ethel asks if it's time to tell Paul about her. And he says, Paul's not, and Clark comes out and he says, Paul's not acting like himself. So we're going to handle this. And like,
Yeah.
that's the right decision right now.
Yeah.
Like, it is right now while you're figuring things out. Um, so we go to Tyson and Clark. And Tyson is the only guy that Carolina knew, like really knew in town. He ran the nonprofit, Global, I just wrote it as GHH, it's like Global Hospital Horizons or something.
Something.
Um,
It basically got doctors into America from poor countries and like sponsored them
yeah,
and paid for them to go to college.
it's like the opposite of Doctors Without Borders.
Yeah.
It's like bringing people into the States instead of sending them out. And to help them kind of like get adjusted here, and then they were working on like getting um all of her family and stuff over. So
Yeah.
he he like had no idea. I will tell you, as he's talking, I was like, he seems too nice. And 5 seconds later, Escobar says, he seems too nice. And I was like, I
Right.
literally was writing this as he said it. Like, what a way to go. But we learned he didn't know about the death. So he's like, this is very new news to him that she's dead. Um, and then he tells us more about his nonprofit. And we learned that he was trying to get her asylum because of the war that Yugoslavia was in.
Yeah.
And he was also working on getting her husband over here, but then her husband was killed in that war. So obviously he is not here now. Um, and Clark is just like goading him. And he's like trying to tell Tyson, he's like, you think you're the big man? Like you were like, you're bringing all these women over here for what purpose? And like trying to make it sound like he's doing it for nefarious reasons.
Yeah.
Maybe or maybe not. But as of now, we have no reason to think that.
That's, and my first thought was, oh, he was sleeping with her when the way he
Right.
was talking about her. But then when he said
Well, I thought so too.
that she had a husband and that he was trying to get the husband over here, I was like, no, so he's just like a genuinely good person.
Yeah.
And then they started like going after him. And I was like, no, but like, I just immediately was like, nope, I trust this guy implicitly. I don't
Yeah.
think he did anything wrong.
I don't either. And I thought that they were like in love and that's why he was trying to keep her here and stuff. But then when you start talking about her husband, and like maybe he was in love with her, but I don't think he
I think maybe he was in love with her, but
out of pocket.
I don't think that anything ever happened. I think he just genuinely like admired the shit out of her and she was a good person
Yeah,
and he was like,
absolutely. Um, so then that's a word. Oh, autopsy. So we also learned that Carolina's autopsy will be done tomorrow. So it's like super fast. And Clarice goes and talks to Tyson, or wants to go talk to Tyson because she says she knows that he knows. And then we got back over to Paul, who's visiting his son at lunch or at work, and he's telling him to come sit with lunch. And his son is so mad.
I
Um,
know.
but he makes this like really like ridiculous voice over like he tries to use this weird accent and he's like, Dad, what do you want? And it was funny and kind of cute. Um, and then we jump back over to Clarice and Tyson. So Clarice is apologizing for Clark. She's like, he went really hard. And Ty's a little defensive, which is fair.
Yeah.
But she's like, is there anything that like would have stuck out to would have like really mattered? And like he's talking about her husband or whatever, and she's like, and this when she realizes like the wedding ring was missing, and he was like, she would have never taken that. Like,
Yeah.
there's not a chance. Like, even though they were, I mean, he was dead now. Like, she would have never removed her ring.
Right.
And now we're back in therapy, and she starts asking Clarice if she has it. And she tries to be like, oh, like me and Ardelia are friends, and she's like, no, no, no. Do you have anyone outside of that and that like you don't work with? Like, do you have anyone that cares about you? And she says that she can't recall anyone. And so she can't think of like anyone who cares about her outside of work, basically. And she starts asking her, she's like, do you want to be known? Um, and Clarice tells her, she's like, that's too advanced for me. Like she just straight up, she's like, I don't even know how to get into that yet.
Yeah.
So we're skipping that. Which she does feel like she's doing much better in therapy with this therapist than
Yeah.
with the
Then one with the other one. Yeah.
And so this is where we get our first flashback to the necklace, and we get a flashback to the broken necklace, which is the Ada bead. And she's talking about all of this, and she's saying her necklace, and then the therapist tells her that past trauma shows who we're drawn to. And I was like, that is so smart. That is smart and unsettling.
I don't like it. I don't like
Right.
it.
But it's not wrong. It's just unfortunate. Um, so we go back to Paul and his son, and Jason's talking about how much he hates his boss because he's like, "Oh, your coworkers seem nice," and Jason's like, I hate everyone."
Yeah.
And we learn that he's big, so angsty, not just teenage angst, but that he's pissed off that Paul never mentioned that Mandy's an alcoholic. He's like, she literally comes home and gets drunk every night. How are we not supposed to know?
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't know why you keep lying to us about it. I don't know why you like never told us. And he's like, well, does your sister know? And he's like, I don't know how she couldn't, but you know, it's just what it is. And then Paul, in order to keep the peace, tells him that they're both alcoholics. He's like, this is what happened. Like, in order for me to get clean, I had to leave.
Yeah.
And it was what was best for everyone. And he's like, so I come back around when I can, but that's why I can't be there full time. Um, and then Jason tells him that there's no such thing as lying for a good reason.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yeah, bro, that's not true. There are plenty of reasons to lie for a good reason. But when you're 16, there's not. So, you know. So we went back up. And we learned that they found the wedding ring very quickly. It was by the bridge. And they're like, oh, so she wasn't wearing it, but it was still there. So she clearly had it on.
Yeah.
And she's like, that kind of leads more, that looks less suspicious to me because it's like she left it behind as a part of her.
Right.
She was like, when I felt that way.
Right, because you don't get murdered and then just like casually take your jewelry off and hang it from a tree.
Right. And she's like, when I thought I wasn't going to make it, I had this Ada bead. And I thought I could just leave the bead and it would still be leaving a part of me behind.
Yeah.
A part of me that mattered. And then they've also decoded the gum wrapper, which is a bank routing number. So we go to this bank box and she put everything in there. And as was talking about how like a lot of immigrants would do that because they don't feel safe anywhere, which is true. And
Yep.
so they put everything in a big box because then at least they knew they had all their most important stuff together. And in this bank box, they find an ultrasound. So we also learn that she was pregnant. They immediately start throwing out rumors that it was Joe. Um,
Which feels,
I don't think it's
I don't
Joe.
think so either. That felt very, very jumping to conclusions.
I feel like they were trying to push us in a direction that isn't quite right.
I
Um,
think it's more likely that because of the war in Yugoslavia, there was some kind of radiation or damage or something with, or some kind of drug that she needed to take because of damage while she was pregnant, went to Locklear, and then when and then found something that she wasn't supposed to find to get and like realize that the trials were bad or whatever. I think it's or like because I went to the trials for the migraines, got pregnant, there was a deficiency in the ultrasound. Like I think it's much more likely that she's connected to Joe in the same way that the other women were,
I think so
not
too.
not in a he knocked her up kind of way. That felt very unhinged to just assume.
I think it's Tyson's. I think that they had a moment, whether it be after her husband died and she was looking for consolation, or they actually did have something. Like,
That's
I
no,
don't
that's that
know.
totally. I was like, I didn't know to if I was thinking that it was his or if it was like she was pregnant. Um, I was thinking it might be possible that she was already pregnant when she got here, like with her
That's possible,
husband's
yeah.
baby, and then the
But they,
drugs, then was on a trial, the same trial drugs, and lost the baby because of the drugs.
so they said she had been like in and out of the States a lot. Like she frequently
Yeah,
came and went. And
yeah.
I think the trials have all been done for a while. Like
Mm,
they're get because they're getting ready to sell the drug now. So I think it's been a few years since the trial actually ran. So
okay.
I think it's more of like you were saying at first, where she did the trials and then she just recently got pregnant and found the deficiency and
Yeah.
started seeing everything line up the way that like the journalist was talking about.
Yeah.
And then she called him that
That's
Joe, and that's what happened.
That's and I don't know if it's Tyson or if it was one of the times that she went home to see her husband, but I don't think it
Yeah.
was Joe. I I
Yeah.
I would believe the Tyson in a moment of like
Yeah.
heartbroken or like temptation gone too far. It happened, and
Mhm.
that's why he's like so awkward about it because he's like, no, she loved her husband, but it was because he feels guilty.
Mhm.
I would
That's kind of what I
also
was thinking too.
I would also be okay with it having been her actual
Her
husband on
husband.
one of the times that she went back to Yugoslavia.
Yeah. Because we don't know when the war started or how long they've been trying to like
Get him
work with us.
over.
So it could have been like the war started a month ago. Like, and if that's the case, then obviously she could have been pregnant if she was home 3 months ago.
Yeah,
Um, so like it definitely depends on like the timeline of all of that. But yeah, I think either is plausible, but I also don't think it's Joe.
yeah. I think and I'm frustrated with them going in that direction just because they had 0.0 evidence and just jumped to a conclusion. And
Yeah.
like I understand thinking that he is somehow connected to it. I understand thinking that she's connected to the trial. I understand thinking that he wanted her dead because of the baby. Why they assumed that that meant he was the father of the child just feels
Yep.
really unhinged.
Yeah, that and I think it's one of the problems that we have with this show where it's like they put everything in your face a lot of the time.
Yeah,
And a lot of times it's foreshadowing because it's true, but I think they're also doing that with red herrings, which I think is the same thing that I was thinking last week when they were talking about Terrence being like a father figure for Bobby. And I was like, it really feels like they're trying to push him as the bad guy and
yeah,
him being so like anti taking his DNA. Like it felt like they were really trying to push that and set it up when it's not the truth. And I feel like it's the
yeah,
same thing here, just more in your face.
yeah. And the thing is, if it turns out that it is like if it turns out that either of our theories are correct and that they have unhingedly jumped to this conclusion, it's annoying, but it's fine. If for some fucking reason it turns out that Joe actually is the father of this child, I will have I will make a list of all of the writers of the show and make sure I never watch anything else they wrote
Yeah.
because that is terrible.
Yeah. And I mean, they could do it in a way that it was like assault or something, but it wouldn't have come up because they wouldn't have crossed paths other than the trial. So, like, it
Because
doesn't make sense even for that
unless they're
storyline to
trying
be
to
the
say that
way.
somehow he's the attorney, like an immigration attorney, but he's not. He's a divorce attorney, and in the real world, attorneys don't do 18 different things like that. That's not real.
No, no.
So
Um,
I will be
yeah,
very pissed off if that is the direction they go.
me too, because it really doesn't make sense or work.
Yeah.
Um, so we go back to Matt and we learn that one of the agents who she graduated Quantico with is bringing in flowers from her grandma because her grandma is just so obsessed with how good she's doing, and it is the cutest. Her
I know.
Lulu is so precious. Um, and you start telling her like, I always thought of us as like kind of partners. Like we graduated at the same time, we're coming at the same time, like we're both doing so many things. Feels like he's not doing anything, but that's fine.
Yeah.
He just keeps getting promoted. And he's like, so it's going to be really great when we're working together on this DNA task. Like, I specifically asked for you. And she's like, hold on. How did you get to ask for me? Because that should be my position is to ask for someone. Like, I'm supposed to be, even
Yeah.
if I'm not like the head of it because of rank, like I'm running point. And
Yeah.
he's like, oh no, you're like my right hand man. Like I'm running point, but like you're my person. Like we're working together. And she's like, I don't think so. And then he's like, so it'd be really cool if you just typed up all of your life's work and sent it to me by Monday so that I can brief everyone on it who's working on it. And I was like, God help me. I understand. I understand a lot of times people will just do it because it's their job. There's nothing I want more than for her to just like quit
Hmm.
or to be like, absolutely not. Be
Hmm.
like, you bring me on, or you're not getting any of this, or give them false information, which is probably worse than the other two things, but I don't care. I want these people to be taken
To suffer.
down because, like, it's not like, I know that, like, race plays a factor, but, like, in this particular instance, with these people it does, but, like, not with Paul. Paul's fine giving her all the credit. Like, if she was on ViCap, like, she would
Yep.
be straight up like getting what she deserved. And not with this team that really sucks hard. Um, Speaking of, next we go to Paul and Clark. And he asks Clark to run the slide on the pig. And he's like, whose pig is this? And he's like, don't worry about it. He's like, okay.
Okay.
Then we go back to Matt, and we see her outside of her car, and she's going to the coalition. And she's clearly still like morally split on it because she's like, I know, like, this is what got my dad taken out with being a labor organizer, and my grandma doesn't think I should do it. I don't really want to do it. I still want to believe in the system, but like, she just doesn't. And so Agent Garrett comes out and sees her, and of course brings her in, and she has joined the coalition.
Yeah.
Um, and so we go back to the therapist and we learn a little bit more about Clarice. Her relatives sent her to an orphanage because she says, you keep telling me you were sent to relatives. And she's like, well, I watched this, but your paperwork says you grew up in an orphanage. She says, yeah, I went to my relatives who then sent me to the orphanage.
Which, yeah, when
Um,
after the whole Silence of the Lambs situation, she ran away and
right.
they were like, yeah.
Yeah. And we learned that she has a younger sibling and two older siblings, and they didn't all get the same treatment as her. And she was like, I didn't have contact with really anyone. Like, my mom sent me a birthday card on my birthday and like something she knitted or sewed at Christmas.
Yeah.
Um, and that was it. And she's like, all I ever wanted was just to be with my mom, um, which is so sad.
How was that?
So then she gets a page and she's out. She's like, so sorry. And they're just like, sure. And she goes over to back to ViCap and she runs into Escobar who's flirting with the autopsy uh lady. And turns out they've been dating for 2 years and they just haven't told anyone because,
Of
policies
work.
and whatnot.
Yeah. Love
He's
it.
like, so if we could just like keep this on the DL. And I was like,
Yeah.
that's kind of cute. And I was like, absolutely. Like, you're not doing anything wrong. Medical examiner and a bicap guy, like that
Love
feels all
it.
right.
Yeah.
So, um, and then this page that they've gotten, they go down to like a basement area or something, and Krimler has called a meeting. And he tells them about the blackmail, and he tells them the DNA that Clark ran. That Clarice was right, that he was the one there at Whittington. And so then he starts telling Clarice, he's like, look, this is really your situation. Like, if you want to stop here, you have enough evidence to charge him with assault, and we are going to back you. He says, or we can keep following the evidence and see where it goes. And she's like, let's follow it. Let's blow the whole thing apart.
Yeah.
Um, and so she tells him about Carolina and that she tells him about the fetus having the similar issues as the other woman who had the clinical trials. And that's kind of where we leave off. However, Troy is not in this meeting. I don't know where he is, but like surely he's going to be brought in.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, why are we?
Like he's the one who kind of pieced everything together, and he wasn't in this meeting, so it felt
Yeah,
very
I
strange.
didn't love that.
I didn't love that
I
at
was like, I
all.
really hope that was just a he couldn't be there the day that they filmed
Yeah,
this. So they,
yeah. It was like, or like even like if they were like an oversight and they just didn't think it through, like it, I
yeah.
hope it wasn't like an intentional he wasn't there because that doesn't make
That doesn't make
sense.
sense. I can't imagine that it would.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's the end of that
Unless
episode.
there's only one reason why they would keep him intentionally in the dark, and that is so that someone on the team was intentionally in the dark so that if anyone starts questioning their team, they have like a
Plausible deniability.
plausible deniability so that they have someone who
Yeah,
can cover their backs. That's the only way that I'm okay with it.
that is possible, but he did say like we're all in this together. If it goes down, it goes down, and like you just have to know that this is either gonna make or break it. Like
Yeah, which in
so,
that
like
case, it makes no
which
sense.
feels like that like you're in or you're out, and like as soon as something happens, it's all gonna blow up, and
Yeah,
so yeah. So I'm hoping it was just an oversight, whether it be in production or whether it be in like he couldn't be there, like you were saying, for the day of shooting or something like
yeah.
one of those reasons, but not an intentional choice. Um, yeah, so I don't have any trivia. Do you have some more thoughts about the episode?
No. I'll be honest, I watched it literally a week ago. I watched it last Thursday, so I don't know if I have a strong idea about anything else.
Yeah, that's totally fair. I mean, I watched it yesterday. I was half asleep and sick yesterday, so I do hope all of my notes have made sense.
Yeah.
I think they have now that I've recapped them. I do
No, it
think
makes
they've made
sense
sense,
because
but
as you're saying it, I remember the episode more than I did when
yeah,
we sat down to record this, and I go, "Damn, I watched these episodes way too long ago. I don't know what's happening."
it's okay. I watched it yesterday and I was like, I have no idea what this second episode was about. I was like, I only remember the case about the child. And then when I started reading about Carolina, I was like, oh
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's all coming back to me now.
Perfect.
Yeah, I don't know. They're doing a lot of build up, and
And
I don't know
I
where
don't,
it's gonna go.
I do not have strong feelings about the future of the show.
I don't either. And we kind of talked about this a little bit last episode too. Like it's just there's not a lot of high hopes there. Like it could have been something, and if it was a little better written.
Yeah.
I don't really have a problem with the direction, I guess. I don't really have a problem with like visuals. Um, really have a problem with the editing. It's just not a lot. It's not very exciting, but that's not
No.
really the editor's fault. You're working with what
No.
you have.
Yeah,
So
and also
like maybe a
like
little better direction, maybe a little bit better
it's also
writing.
like it's interesting because we're watching it because it's part of the Hannibal universe, but it really isn't a horror or thriller show. It's a
Right.
police procedural. And when we're used to analyzing and talking about sci-fi and horror that
Yeah.
are visually important, like editing is important and directing is important because there's so many things going on. And this show is like boring procedural and mediocre boring procedural at best.
Yeah, because like I'm watching other procedurals, like I'm watching other shows, and
Yeah.
it's not holding up to what I'm watching presently
Right.
that's coming out, and
That's
not even like this, not the shows we're obsessed with that have our hearts and whatnot, like the CSIs
yeah.
and
But
the,
I mean, like,
you know,
I watch, and anyone who's met my dad knows, police procedurals are our thing. I have watched police procedurals in Swedish from the 80s and felt less angry about them.
yeah. Well, like, and that's the thing is like, I watch a lot of procedurals, and I don't love a British procedural. Everyone else in the world
Oh my
does.
God, I do. I do. I
It's
love
just
them.
not for me, and that feels like it has more going on than this does. Like that,
Yeah.
those always feel slow to me,
Yeah.
and I know that's
Oh,
just the style.
yeah, but also I watch a lot of British TV in general.
Yeah, and I don't mind other British TV. Like I like British sci-fi. I like British comedy. Like
British comedy is unhinged, and I
for
think British
sure.
comedians are so much better than Americans, and I wish that we could. I wish that our culture could handle a British quiz
I
show.
know.
They can't.
Ugh. I like I fell down the IT crowd during COVID and fell in love. Like it's just it's just a procedural. I don't know what it is. And sometimes the British drama is a little slow for me too, but I can watch those a little bit better than the others. But like I think that does better because at least it's good writing. Like even if it's slow, it's good writing. And so like
It's intentionally slow. It's about the
right.
characters and it's about the scenery and it's about the dialogue and the case gets solved, but at the end of the day, it's not it's supposed to be at the pace that British country life is at.
Yeah.
This is trying to be fast-paced FBI stuff and it's really difficult because it's trying to make a political stand that is an important political stand, but it's also very 2021. Like
Yeah.
everything that's happening with race and gender in this show doesn't feel like it's the 90s. It feels like
And I
it's
mean,
and no
you
and
think
not
about
and not
we
to
had
say that
Rodney
not
King in the 90s,
right, no
but
no no
not in
and
culture, not in like
not
TV.
well and that's the thing, not to say that the 90s weren't a time because Rodney King, OJ Simpson, all of that is early 90s.
Mhm.
I'm not by any means diminishing the work or trauma of race in the 90s. But the way Ardelia's character is handling it and the conflict she's having between what her grandma believes and what her dad believed and everything, that is very much a 2021 post Black Lives Matter approach to race, and it doesn't feel like it fits in the workplace era that they have created on the show. And
Yeah,
so
that is very fair because I think they were still, I don't think people were like anti-organization still in the 90s. Like they were still like labor organizations would have been the choice. Like they would have all been a part of the Black Coalition. They would have like done this from, I mean, obviously I was born in 92, so I was only kind of there, just
yeah,
like knowing history.
it
But like
just
they have very different values and different approaches, like you're saying, like then.
and I think that I think that as a black female in a workplace in the 90s, I don't think that she would have. I think she would have listened to her grandma and just tried to work her way up in whatever way she could.
Well, I think anyone, and I think anyone
No, and I
in
think agreed.
93 would have done that. Like,
I think
absolutely.
yeah,
So,
it just feels very and I'm not saying that the story doesn't need to be told. I'm not saying that
right,
I'm not saying that the prejudice didn't exist. I'm just saying the
right.
approach to addressing the prejudice is very post Black Lives Matter and it feels off-putting in a show that is very dated.
93. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's they just don't really understand the dichotomy of trying to do that. Because you look at um
And it's not
like
just
the
and it's
Bates
not
Motel that did they tried to do like the past present. Like they tried to mix it in some and they did it in a way that made it clear of these are the things we're holding the past, these are the things we're doing in the
but they
present.
also did it in a way that was very much a dystopian reality. Like it wasn't a real reality.
And
This is
this
trying
doesn't
to
set it up that way.
no,
Yeah.
this is trying to be a real true 90s reality. And I don't necessarily think that it's just the race. I think the gender stuff is weird is not
Yeah.
handled well either. I think Clarice's position in the team and the first episode and the being the girl and Krendler hating her because she's a girl who knows more than him and then that suddenly going away because that's not what it was. I just feel like it's all very modern progressive attempting to tell a story without using the true cultural norms of the time of
Right.
the story they're trying to tell.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And
Because
I think it's
because there were people who were fighting for there were feminists,
sure.
there were radicalists, there were progressives. But as someone who was a child in the 90s, it wasn't something that was like the culture wasn't the attack culture that it is now.
Well, and also like if you look at like we watch, I mean, I feel like we watch shows from the 80s and 90s more than a lot of people, honestly.
Yeah.
And it's like we've seen the shows that came out at these times.
Yeah.
And it's like this doesn't align with that. Like you
Right.
want it to be that, but you're not making it that. And you're not doing it in the way where you're trying to split and be like, we're modern, but we're setting it and seem like Bates Motel. Like you're not doing it in the correct way. And you have to pick and choose. You have to pick your battles. You can't say it's 93 and then act like it's 22. Like it's just not is what it is. And I think that that's a huge issue with this show. And I think a lot of the people, I think one of the problems is that all the people that are working on these shows, we're working on this show, are working on bigger shows that are coming out right now. Because you have people from Star Trek Picard, you have people working on 1923, you have people working on Yellowstone, you have people like they probably don't care as much about this show as they do the other shows because the other
Right.
shows are getting the ratings, they're getting the views, they're already doing good, and they have multiple seasons coming up. This is kind of a shot in the dark to see what's going to happen, and they're like, we want to be on it because it's a, they're bringing back our Hannibal show that everybody's been asking for, and then it's not that, and people are just like, I feel like they're throwing in the towel a little bit with the show.
Yeah.
And like, that's a bummer. And I think it could have been better. And I think it could have been well done. I think it could have continued on. They just all
And
kind of threw in the towel. And they're all coming from different genres too to do it.
yeah, and
Like,
I think, and I'm looking, so I pulled up a list of police procedurals of the early 90s. And like the two big ones that everybody watched, I think, are NYPD Blue and Law and Order.
Law and Order. Mm-hmm.
Like
And I don't know.
the
I don't
original
know if
Law and
you've
Order.
watched the first season of Law and Order,
Yeah, and I
but
was gonna say,
I thought
I don't know how many of you are super familiar with the early seasons of the original Law and Order or NYPD Blue. Um, there were gender and race issues in that show.
yeah, absolutely.
In NYPD Blue, the lieutenant of their precinct was a black man. And there were issues with among the characters about the ideas of answering to a black man in power and things like that. And there were tensions. It was not addressed in the super I don't know I don't know how to explain it in other way than anyone who has lived through pre 2020 and post 2020 in terms of racism and anti-racism. It's a different way of dealing with it, and it isn't true to how it was handled in the 90s.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, and Law and Order was the same. So as we all know, I am a like originalist. I want to start from the beginning of everything. So I haven't watched SVU, haven't watched any of the big shows, but I went and bought the first Law and Order season because that's the only way you can watch it right now.
Yes.
And so I watched the first season and it is wild. It does
Yeah.
not hold up to the times, and it
No,
is
it was.
very racist. It is very homophobic. It is very transphobic. It is very anti-feminist. Like it is wildly anti everyone except the white man who's running the police station. Like it is wild.
Mhm.
And it's story of the week. So you see those in different episodes too.
Yeah.
And it probably started in 91. Did it start in 91?
1990.
1990, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like that's the world we're living in. And that is so I think Rodney King was 91 or 92. So like we are closing up on the Rodney King era,
Mm-hmm.
but it didn't change that much until way later. Like you're saying, like it's still at least even though people may have been acting differently, the way it was culturally portrayed was not.
Right. And so
That did not
like
change until the 2000s.
NYPD Blue
Way ahead.
NYPD Blue premiered in 1993. And
Mhm.
James McDaniel, who we talked about on the Stargate podcast, who played the general in Stargate, he plays Lieutenant Captain Arthur Fancy. I fucking love Captain Fancy. Love
What
Captain
a
Fancy.
name.
What a name. But yeah, and he is obviously it's a big deal. The ADA is a woman in the first
Mhm.
season. Like there are people in power who are minorities, but the tension between them is not it's just it's this is not accurate compared to what was actually happening in the 90s in
Well,
those
and it's the same
situations.
thing with the AG being a woman in this. It's handled very differently than it is in the 90s. Like she would never have been treated, and she has a little bit of view of like they're like she's a little bit hysterical because of her daughter, but it's very situational and it's not just because she's a woman. And it would have been just because she was a woman in the 90s. Like
I
the
don't know
AG
if
is definitely
that's
handled differently.
true. I don't know if
I
that's
think
true.
so. I think that they would have, I think that she would have had some of the same hardships that we're not seeing here.
I'm just trying to think. I'm looking the history of the U.S. Attorney General. Um, because I don't know list of attorney generals. That's what I'm looking for. The first is she really? Let's see. No. So the first female attorney general uh was Janet Reno, who was, I think, but she was,
Yeah,
yeah, it was 1993.
right. So I anticipate, like, if we're setting this in 93, I obviously do not remember because there was a lot more political talk about Bill Clinton than Janet Reno from what I know. But I'm sure she got flack for being a woman as the Attorney General. I'm sure she heard about it. Just from how I've seen politics evolve over
Yeah.
time. So I imagine it would have been the same way in a TV show. That it would have been addressed
Well,
similarly.
part of the problem was most of the jokes about her were not like most of the talk about her and was not about the fact that she was a woman. It was the fact that she was not a traditionally feminine looking woman. And so that was like
Mhm.
she was a very tall, very masculine looking woman. And so then it was like, oh, is she really a woman? Because, you know, it was 1990s and we're all the assholes.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. But yeah, so there's a lot of almost it's almost like tone deaf the way they're handling it. They're not.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It is tone deaf and historically inaccurate.
Yeah. And it's okay if you wanted to be that way. If you wanted to be like, this is how we're portraying it, that's not what you've done though. That's
Right.
not how you've done it, and that's
It's
not how you said you've done it.
and it's okay if you want to tell a story about women and people of color fighting for justice in the
Absolutely.
workplace. But that's not what you set the show up to be, and it just doesn't feel it feels like you're trying to tell too many different stories at once and they're not
Mhm.
really doing the things.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, this has gone really long because we have had a lot of discussion, which is good. I hope you've
Yeah.
enjoyed our discussion on everything. But in the meantime, who do you want to punch?
Oh fuck, I forgot we have to do that.
I know.
I want to punch. I think I want to punch Jim or Joe. Joe, that's his name, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Who's Jim?
I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, he's a good one. I'm gonna punch Herman. That's Ardell's boss.
Oh yeah. I just have
Yeah,
a
his
problem punching
I
his
hate him.
face.
I know you do. I know you do. That's okay. I think I punched him last time he was in an episode of Stargate, so
Probably.
I'll take care of that. So who's your MVP?
Murray.
God, yeah, that's a good one. He's probably the best pick. But because you picked him, I'm gonna go with Paul.
Yeah,
Because
he
he
turns it
turned it
around.
around and he's like, I'm gonna do the right thing, even if it takes down our entire department. It's fine.
Yep.
We're gonna fight for the truth.
Yep.
Which is a big theme in Blood Over Bridehaven.
Ooh.
Fight for truth. So, anyways, yeah. So that's this episode. Um, Stay tuned. We'll be back next week for episode 9. That is all the information I have. This is not even on the same DVD I just finished, so I don't know the name of it.
Same.
Um, But we will see you for that. So you can talk to us and email us and whatnot at deathandaliens@gmail.com. You can find us on all of the social media at Death and Aliens. You can find me at CE Cloud 13.
And you can follow me everywhere at EMKAY_superstar.
Yeah.